NC pork. Good for the plate, great for the state. Welcome back to another edition of Bold North State Football Daily right here on the North Carolina Sports Network. I am Mike Waddell, and I am joined as always by our two expert coaches that bring you the inside of college football 2025. Our offensive coordinator, he's the former head coach at the University of Minnesota, former All-American Rose Bowl team captain at the University of Illinois. We're talking about Tim Brewster, the greatest recruiter in the history of college football. And on the right side, that is the defensive side. It is impenetrable. It is indomitable. We're talking about Jim Collins. He is the pride of Guilford County. He is a proud graduate of Elon and a 1996 national champion at the University of Florida. Together, they make up the #1 analyst duo anywhere in college football, and it's right here on Bold North State Football Daily. Before we dive in, though, make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on YouTube, X, and all social media outlets, as every week we drop new content daily leading up to game days, which this week include a Thursday night stop at Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium in Greenville, where David Glenn and I will be there with the Old North State tailgate for East Carolina Tulsa football. And Tulsa, of course, is coached by former Gardner-Webb head coach, former East Tennessee State head coach, Trey Lamb, who has been on the network before. So we're excited to see both Blake Harrell and Trey Lamb Thursday night down in Greenville. We will also this week be on site at the biggest, the baddest, the #1 whole hog barbecue competition in North Carolina in the autumn. We're talking about Smoke on the Water in my favorite town east of Raleigh. We're talking about Little Washington. Can't wait to get down there. Look forward to seeing you there first thing Saturday morning for the best barbecue that you ever put in your mouth. But right now, it's time to talk a little football, so let's get to it.
Hey folks, DG here. When I want authentic Italian food served with a side of NC State tradition, I head to Amedio's restaurant. For 60 plus years, Amedio's has been feeding fans, families, and sports legends with unforgettable pasta and pizza, and with Wolfpack pride on every wall. It's an absolute must-stop located right near the NC State campus. Check out the menu, place a catering order, or reserve your table for lunch or dinner today at amediosrestaurant.com. That's AMEDEOS restaurant.com. So you too can experience a true Wolfpack and Raleigh classic.
First up, the ACC scoreboard from last weekend, and some surprises, some reminders, and some storylines that will echo forward into Week 8. Here's how it went down. Starting off, Tim, I got to ask you, Pitt 34-31 over your former team, the Florida State Seminoles. Jim is smiling over there because he hates Florida State. You have a national championship ring from 2013 at Florida State, but man, does it seem like light years away from that reality right now, as Mike Norvell and the Seminoles have not won an ACC game since nipping Cal in 2024. 386 days ago, and that wasn't an overwhelming win right there. What is going on with the Seminoles, Tim Brewster?
Mike, that's a very, very hard loss at home. Very hard loss at home. Extremely proud uh, football program that now is 0-3 in the ACC. They're 0-3 after looking so good in the opening ball game against Alabama. Really played extremely well, tremendous energy, and for whatever reason, the wheels are kind of falling off, and that was an extremely tough loss to Pitt. Congrats to Pitt. Pitt went into Doak and got a big time win, and right now Florida State's got to be searching. They got to be searching for answers. Is exactly what do they need to do? Because there's no. When we first went to Florida State, we won 29 straight games. We won 29 straight games, including the national championship, and was within a game of winning two national championships in a row. And I'm having a hard time comprehending where Florida State's football program is right now.
Jim, how hard do you think it is for coaches to reel a team back in when they get off track, when they don't really have that shared history, that shared experience of having the ups and downs? There's really nothing to go to. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely correct. It is, as you look around the country now, and we obviously the Penn State situation is there. They lost three in a row, and they fired James Franklin. So when things seem to go bad now in this transfer portal era, and this era of paying players, it seems to stay on that track. Go back to Florida State a year ago. They struggle. They have two wins a year ago. They're 2-11, and as you just stated earlier, they haven't won an ACC game in 386 days, I believe is the correct number.
Right.
So it's hard to get it back on track, because I don't know if you totally spend that much time in the transfer portal if you totally get that group of players to buy into what you're selling, and what you're trying to search for in the locker room and in continuity and what you're doing. So I think sometimes, and Brew, you may know this better than I do. I think when things start going bad, they start thinking about, where can I go next? Where can I get out of this and go make money off this and find somewhere else where I can win and line my pockets a little bit more.
You're searching for what's next, and right now it's just such a extremely volatile time in college football with our coaching profession. I've never ever seen anything like what's going on right now.
We're going to take a deep dive into all of the coaching changes a little bit later in the show. But as we recap week 7 in the ACC, boy, SMU, they continue to look strong. A participant in last season's ACC championship game, losing late to Clemson, but SMU with the win over the Stanford Cardinal 34-10 this past weekend. Notre Dame took care of NC State. We're going to talk about the Wolfpack a little bit later. That a 36-7 Irish win. Georgia Tech handles Virginia Tech 35-20, and Clemson looking like they're getting their wheels in motion right now. It also helps when you're playing Boston College and Billy O'Brien, who is not really a strong team this year in the Atlantic Coast Conference. 41-10, Clemson with the win over the Eagles. So that's a loaded slate, Coach Brew. What jumps out to you? What result do you think will shift the momentum in the Atlantic Coast Conference as we move forward now to the second half of the season?
The real teams, the teams that are built, championship type teams, they're going to stand out now. They're going to move to the cream will rise to the top, and I think that's that's a great message that Clemson's sending that, hey, you know what? Everybody had us buried, everybody had us gone, and they're playing good football right now. And as you go into the second half of the schedule, you get into this, you find out a lot about your team and the direction, the leadership of your football team. And I just think that right now that's what's going to happen in the ACC as we move into the second half.
Coach Collins, from your perspective, which of these outcomes has the biggest ripple effect? Who gets a bump, and who do you think is in trouble right now in the AC side from the 17th place team from a year ago, Florida State?
Well, I think the team that gets a bump is Georgia Tech as they continue to move forward and really prepare themselves for what they face down the stretch as the season goes along. So my bump goes to Georgia Tech. My trouble goes to two programs, and the two programs are obviously Florida State, who is in a three-game slide right now after opening the season so strong against what has now turned into a pretty darn good Alabama football team, and they beat them in the opening game. So. And with the temperature around the country and the lack of patience around the country, then and based on what happened in Tallahassee a year ago, I would think that the heat in Tallahassee right now is probably turned up pretty high. So I would say the trouble is brewing there, and then the other place I think trouble is with an injury situation and a depth situation is in Raleigh. Those guys are really beat up on defense, and it showed in the second half. They played the first half against Notre Dame. They played well, close game, a 10-7 game at halftime, if I remember, and then it got out of hand in the second half. The more that that NC State lost players. So those are two situations at NC State and at Florida State that they need to catch some momentum here and or lightning in a bottle and move forward as quickly as they can.
And guys, when you look at NC State's remaining schedule, they have Pitt coming up on the 25th of October. Then they have Georgia Tech, which is currently ranked number 12 in the nation. They then have number 2 Miami. They go to Carter Finley Stadium, get to go home and play against Florida State in the Chuckamado Bowl. And then they have North Carolina on November 29th. I mean, those beacons of Florida State and North Carolina are in the distance. But man, when you're looking at these remaining games for Dave Doran's 11th place ACC Wolfpack right now, they could be seriously challenged to find another win in this 2025 campaign. It could be pretty dark for the Wolfies.
Early in the season, they really had some momentum. They're playing good football. But again, now the schedule's getting a lot tougher. They're playing better teams. And so, but I'm going to say, there will be no flinch from Dave Doran and his group at NC State. He'll get those guys ready. He'll get those guys prepared. And, the toughest thing is right now, guys are beat up. Guys are getting tired. Guys are getting, nicked. And so, you just gotta hold your team together and stay extremely positive with them and just understand, State's deal. You're exactly right, Mike. It's going to be a tough road to hoe down the stretch for them.
Well, the level of difficulty as you move through the NC State schedule is one that we talked about a couple of weeks on the show when they were undefeated and coming into this stretch of Campbell and moving forward at Virginia Tech. We actually talked about them being possibly 6-0 going to Notre Dame, and it turns out that they lost 2 games and now they've lost 3 games in a row. And I agree with Brew that coaching staff will do a great job of pulling that team together and continuing to work forward and move forward. And I don't mean for this to sound like that this is defend the coach day in my presentation and my feelings about this, but it's hard with the temperature around the country right now and the firings of all these coaches. There's not very much patience out there. So in a way, yes, I am defending the coach because you're talking about programs that have been built over the long haul, and all of a sudden, that you may have to look inside. I know Boo Corrigan at NC State. I know he will try to give Dave Doran every opportunity to be successful there, and he'll try to give them every dollar that he can give them. And and Brew, I think you'll agree with this also. And when I say dollars, I mean dollars, because it takes dollars to win this day and time.
The NIL situation at every school in the country is paramount at this point. And the bottom line is, if you have money, you're going to be able to go out and acquire good talent. If you don't, it's going to be extremely difficult.
Oh, I would throw this in there. I think you have the opportunity to acquire good talent. But as Nick Saban has said the last 2 years, he just repeated it this past weekend when ESPN College Game Day was in Eugene, Oregon for the Ducks game. Man, you might have the bank account to go buy the talent, but if you pick the wrong talent, Jim, what is that phrase?
You may be buying somebody else's shit.
There you go. And I got to tell you, that's the thing. I think that people got spoiled 2 years ago with what Mike Norvell did in the quick flip at Florida State and thought that, man, this is going to be easy. We can just go out and buy whatever we want. And I think as people are starting to figure out right now, and this is again a point that was made by a lot of the guys on ESPN College Game Day. And I like that show because it's former players and former coaches talking about ball. It's not the nerd bin that is running a lot of these clickbait sites out there that never played a game, never broke a sweat, except when they were running to and from mom's fridge in the basement, talking about football because they were never allowed to play. So they've been talking about it their whole life. That rant aside, the one thing that they talk about is that it takes time to do this. And coaches need to be able to be given that time to put in their system and get their players on the roster before some jerkus. And we're going to talk about this in depth in a little bit, but I want to tease it ahead. Man, some of these guys are only getting 2 and 3 years.
We spend so much time talking about recruiting, okay? Recruiting, okay? How about evaluation, okay? Everybody talks about going and getting these young recruiters. Go get these young recruits. How about go get a Jim Collins? How about go get a Tim Brewster, where, we've got veteran experience in the evaluation process. We know exactly what we're looking for, and we're gonna make the right decisions from an evaluation, because you can recruit all you want. If you're not evaluating properly, like you said, Mike, you made a great point. Hey, it's all for naught, And so I just think that that's where we're kind of missing the boat a little bit. And I'm gonna promise you this much. I'm going to trust Jim Collins in his evaluation of whether or not it's defensive players, whether or not it's offensive players. Well, we're going to go make sure we get, my evaluation. My eye doesn't lie to me. And so, I just wanted to make that point, because everybody gets caught up in, hey, let's go get these young whiz guys, man, these recruiters, man, and I'm like, hey, okay, recruiting's great, but let's evaluate them first.
Well, I think that's a great point, and I'm so glad you brought that up, Tim. And the evaluation process is so critical. And Coach Saban's statement was one thing, but in my short time in the NFL, I was working with a guy by the name of George Katavlis, great secondary coach, was in the league a long time. And I'd been in college coaching and had not been in the NFL before, but he taught me one thing very quickly, and that's the evaluation of free agents. And he said, Jim, learn this very quickly. When you turn the video on and you start evaluating and you're making the tell of the tape to present this guy to the scouting staff and the coaching staff, just remember, what you see on video is who you're going to pay that money to, because very seldom as a NFL free agent and now as a college free agent, very seldom can you get them to change who they are. They are who they are. What you see on video is what you're buying. So if you can't evaluate what you're looking for and what you want on your team and how you want your team to be built, it becomes very difficult. And Brew, I'm a believer in this now. All 11 guys on offense and all 11 guys on defense, they don't have to all be 5 stars. There's two, there's three, there's four positions on each side of the ball that you got to have really, really, really good players. One of them being a quarterback, one of them being a corner, one of them being a linebacker, a pass rusher, a left tackle, a wide receiver. But after that, don't get me wrong, now they can't be bad players, but they don't have to be five stars. Kurt Cignetti, who's done an unbelievable job at Indiana, came out the other day and said he does not get hung up with stars. So many people believe in stars now. They don't evaluate. They just say, well, somebody else thinks this damn guy's good, so I'm going to think he's good. Well, guess what? Guess what? I guarantee you, Tim Brewster, the guy better be pleasing to his eye or he's going to turn his ass down.
We used a term I think that you'll really appreciate, and I'm sure you've probably used it as well, is this is a glue guy. A glue guy. Okay. He's just, hey, listen, he's a 3-star. He's not a 5-star. He's a 3-star. And every single day as a coach, you're going to know what you're getting. He's going to take the field and he's going to bust his ass. He's going to work hard. He's going to be a great teammate. Does he run 4-4 or 4-5? Absolutely not. Okay. But I'm just going to tell you, he's the type of teammate that everybody wants to go to war with. And you got to have glue guys, on a championship caliber football team.
One thing that Dean Smith said, and this is basketball, not football, but I think it really fits into what you're both talking about. He said he'd rather have a 14-point score off a 30-win team than a 30-point score off a 14-win team. And what that's saying is, I want guys who know how to win.
Right.
I want guys who know how to support their teammates when things do go wrong and can handle it when the crap starts to hit the fan. So I'm going to kind of roll with that. And I can tell you, even as my career as an administrator and all the coaches that I've hired through the years, and it's tough to hire you guys because you got to get in there and you really got to know them. You're talking about evaluating talent. I know when I was hiring football and basketball coaches specifically, that sometimes these searches would go on in my head. I was already working on these things beforehand because you've always got to be prepared. My coach might leave me because we're winning. He might need to be replaced because we are not hitting on all the objectives. But it was a deep study, especially earlier in my career. But there are things that you're willing to pass on and say, okay, maybe I can work on this, or maybe I can take a little bit less in this category. But the one thing that you can't get away from is that grind, Jim, that you both were talking about, to get in there and evaluate. And I would think evaluating talent in 2025 is much different than it was, because you're evaluating high school kids, you're evaluating JUCO kids, you're evaluating the people that you're playing every week. Just for the scouting report, you're evaluating other talent at both the Division I and Division II and sometimes Division III levels. And you're evaluating your own team because you got to know who can get the job done and who can't. I would think that the structure of a staff today is even much expanded. Obviously, look at what Lombardi has to work with at North Carolina, who we're about to talk about in a second. But I would think the entire thing has really morphed into something that may be too big to succeed.
The legwork that you have to do in recruiting, and Tim, you jump in here anywhere you'd like. The evaluation process of off the video and the evaluation process, I never like to take a player into our program at a high school unless I saw him play in person, especially at my position. I wanted to see how he interacted day in and day out. And I wanted to watch this player play against the very best competition that he could possibly play against. We evaluate this day and time way too much off highlight videos. Hell, I'm old. I could and I could make a highlight video of myself right now and convince you that I could still play, which is a bunch of crap. So you got guys that watch all these highlights. You got to go back and you got to watch game video. Tim, I think you'll agree with this. You got to get in that high school and you got to go meet the guidance counselor. You got to go meet the girlfriend. You got to go meet all these people and you got to find out what makes this guy tick. Is he a tough guy? Is he a guy that you can count on day in and day out? Does he come to school every day? Does he go to class all the time? Does he sit in the front row? What kind of guy are we taking into our program? all of that is extremely critical. And I'm not sure everybody in this business this day and time are dotting the I's and crossing the T's like some of us old veterans know how to do.
Hey, Jim. I mean, you're so spot on. It's ridiculous. But this, let me give one more point here. Okay, the great Nick Saban. Okay, he had I worked for Jimbo Fisher, who worked for Nick Saban. Who, Jimbo. We did a lot of things like Coach did at Alabama and LSU and his places. But this is the thing he said, Mike. I will never ever offer a kid that I didn't have in camp. That I didn't have in camp. Okay, where you could, it's great to see a guy on tape. It's great to, you watch him play, but in camp, you're able to expose him to your terminology. You're going to say, hey, does football make sense to this kid? And that's the biggest question, Mike, you got to ask is, does football make sense to a kid? Or if it doesn't make sense to him, you got no chance. But having a kid in camp is invaluable. Watching him respond to your coaching, Jim, hey, do you like him? Does he like you? What type of everybody says, well, it's all about the kid, how you're going to evaluate him. But I'm going to tell you what, how's the kid going to evaluate you? It's a great opportunity for kids to evaluate you as a coach and your environment. And so I think camp is an invaluable piece to the evaluation process.
Hey, y'all, David Glenn here from the North Carolina Sports Network. When I'm in Wrightsville Beach, my go-to hangout is Jimmy's, the best local bar for sports fans, live music, cold drinks, and coastal vibes. No matter your favorite team, Jimmy's Bar is the place that sports fans from all across the Carolinas can call their home away from home. The next time you visit Jimmy's Bar in Wrightsville Beach, tell them DG sent you.
All right, fellas, let's now move on to what's dominating chatter here in the Bold North State. The chaos, there's no other word to say it, chaos swirling in Chapel Hill after WRAL television in Raleigh reported on Coach Bill Belichick in the alleged locker room discord that has raised eyebrows. And frankly, it kind of upsets me to a point that I didn't want to tape this show on Sunday night because I was still a little perturbed after reading the fact that WRAL keeps going back to the same ticky-tack little league crap that they're picking up on. And that's what happens when you have reporters who have never played a sport, okay? Seriously, folks, whether you listen to us here at the North Carolina Sports Network and two national championship coaches and a former AD, a very respected journalist, probably the number one journalist in the state of North Carolina, and David Glenn here on the North Carolina Sports Network. Listen to whoever you want to, but at least look into who you're hearing from. Because some of these people have literally no experience more than Joe Fan that's sitting 2 seats over from you at the stadium. Let's go into the particulars from the WRAL reporting. Number one, every locker room in America has malcontents. Whether you are 12-0 in the regular season or 0-12, you have malcontents. And when you're losing, it gets amplified. And a coaching change and a roster turnover all added in, you have an immediate pressure cooker. Guys, in your experience, have you ever had a locker room that was completely congenial? Everybody loved each other. I mean, even in your national championship seasons, didn't you have somebody in the locker room who thought that they should have been playing more than they were?
Like you said, everybody's not going to get, hell, coaching staffs, you don't have to love all your coaches. There's going to be stuff that comes up and everybody disagrees upon. But I think what they're doing is you've got a Hall of Fame coach in Bill Belichick, and they're trying to create cliques. They're trying to create news stories, newsworthy stories, and they say newsworthy. And to us, it's not that big a deal, and so I think that first years are extremely difficult wherever you're coaching, wherever you're at. I mean, I'm going to tell you what, if you look at the records of coaches that, in year one, the transition is difficult. It's a difficult process. And I think that right now, Bill Belichick and the North Carolina, Mike Lombardo, they're going through an extremely difficult transition process. And it is what it is. Jim, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Brew, I agree with you 100%. The transition from one coaching staff to another, it can be extremely difficult, and it's one that is challenging. Don't get me wrong, I'm not defending what's going on at the University of North Carolina or anywhere else. But unless you walk in those doors every day and you're in those meetings and you're in the locker room and all, the statements that you make about what's going on there are all a bunch of crap. Yeah, I'm not over there. I don't know what's true and what's not true. And you read so much in the media this day and time, and you can create so much, and you can always find somebody that has a bone to pick because they're not playing enough, or they're not making enough money this day and time. But the bottom line is, as long as you can pull a program together and get it to the point where you're growing, and that's the challenge for Coach Belichick and for Mike Lombardi and those guys as they go through this season now. Do they make progress? Do they continue to grow? And if they don't continue to grow, then you have to say, well, maybe there are issues right now. But we've got to see growth. And we talked about games that are critical games. Well, their game at Cal this coming Friday night is a critical game in their process because they've been open 2 out of the last 3 weeks. So it's like they've had another preseason camp and they've had another spring practice. So damn if they don't know who their best players are after this, after playing this number of games. They've had their exhibition season, or their preseason games like you have in the NFL. So they should know who their players are at this point in time. So when they take the field on Friday night in Berkeley, then you should see the best of the University of North Carolina as it grows down the road. Now, when you've got recruiting and all that, how what's happened so far affects recruiting, I think that's something we'll talk about later on. But I'm going to repeat myself again. I'm not in that building. I don't know what's going on in that building. The only thing I can evaluate is what I see on TV and off video. And right now, what I've seen off TV and on video is not very good. So they have the opportunity to improve what they are doing.
It's absolutely huge. This ball game against Cal is huge for the coaching staff and for this football team. Okay. It's huge for Coach Belichick to show improvement. He's been saying that there's improvement. We just haven't seen it. I haven't seen a team who is getting better and better. Like you said, he's got 2 out of 3 buys the past couple of weeks, and he's going to get an opportunity to show. He's going to take his team across the country. Okay. 3-hour time change. It's hard. It's hard. That's a tough deal. Okay. But he's a veteran, experienced guy, and they got to lean on his experience in this moment and take a team across the country to Berkeley, California, and show that they are improved, that they are a better football team. And if they don't, then I think that there's some really valid questions that need to be answered.
The other interesting point about playing Cal at this point in time, there's another pretty good former NFL coach that's the general manager of that program out there. And don't think that Ron Rivera is not actively coaching in that position that he's in. I don't know that, but I would not expect Ron Rivera to take that position unless he had an active role in what was being put on the field every Friday or Saturday. This week it's Friday, but every Saturday of this season. Ron Rivera is a pretty damn good football coach too.
One of the other talents from the WRAL report was that the North Carolina coaching staff and overall program administration was building a system that was too individualistic. And I thought that was laughable, given that players are negotiating very handily with agents and with parents and other family members to get these big NIL deals. It's all about them. They're literally moving from school to school based on the deals in many cases. And any individual criticizing coaches or administrators for building in this type of system, it feels a little bit hypocritical. And any reporter making that claim is very naive, if not altogether ignorant, of how college football works. Tim, you were just in this cauldron at Jackson State, at Colorado, at Charlotte the last 4 seasons. You know what it's like right now. I mean, how much has it evolved into exactly what is being accused of in Chapel Hill, but is happening across the nation, that it's more of an individual game that has to be converted once you get them on campus to a team concept?
So when Coach Belichick took the job at North Carolina and Lombardi came in there and the staff he put together, they said they're going to be the 33rd NFL team. They're going to build everything they do like an NFL organization, franchise. And, you know, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with, I think that the National Football League is, and I was there as a player, I was there as a coach. I think it is more individualistic than the college game, than what you're trying to cultivate in the college game, where, hey, it's all about team and it's all about my brotherhood and it's all about, and in the NFL, it is straight business. And I think that everybody who knows Coach Belichick knows that that's been his MO, okay? He's all about the business. He's not warm and fuzzy. He's not a guy that's going to put his arm around the neck of a kid and say, hey, listen, man, and I think that, there's time that you have to show, love for kids and love for, at the college level, and so I think that that's kind of where it's at right now. I think that North Carolina right now is they're running the organization like a pro team, and they're not in the pros. Okay, they're not a pro organization. Let's not get this thing twisted. Okay, it's college football, and college football is totally different. Jim's got tremendous experience in the National Football League and in pro ball, and he'll share some things about the differences. But the biggest thing to me is it's not. College football is not business. There's a much more human aspect to college football. NFL, shoot, it's all about, it is all about individual stuff and that type thing. But I'm really interested to hear what Jim thinks about this question. This is a good one, Mike.
I'm not sure the term individualistic. I'm not exactly sure what that means, because the game that we've coached and the game that these players play is the greatest team game that there is. So to say that you're feeding into a system that builds individuals is totally wrong. I mean, that's not something that I can even begin to comprehend at this point in time. So what you're looking at is you're looking at an opportunity to grow a team and to build a team, and you got to have all 11 guys and all 22 and all 105 all trying to pull in the same direction. It's a little bit harder to do this day and time. That goes back to the selection process of who you have in that locker room and how you're going to do it. And to say that what's going on at North Carolina right now is well, when you change 70 players on a team, I mean, I don't know how you grow them into a group that's going to have continuity as quickly as you would like. And the other thing that Brew brought up, when you're coaching professional athletes, you have them during the season. They come into the building at 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, whatever time that you have. And they're there until 5:30, 6 in the evening, or longer if they want to on their own. And then guess what? They go home to their wives, their kids, their whatever their situation is. You stay as a professional coach, you keep your ass out of what they're doing individually unless it affects what they're doing when they walk into your building. Well, college football is not that way. You're dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-old, 21, 22-year-olds, some 24 and 25-year-olds now with it, but you are still helping that individual, and I use that word individual, you're still helping them form who they are and how they're going to move forward. So you have to worry about where they are at night. You have to worry about whether they're going to class. I assume, Brew, they still go to class out there. I hope they do because all of them are not going to be professional football players.
Right.
They better use this opportunity to get a degree and to be able to move into society and be successful in society. And that again is in your selection process and who you pick to be on your team. Winning is extremely important, because winning brings more and more money to your program. But growing these young people into becoming good men, good fathers, good husbands down the road is just as important. So that is a huge factor in what goes on in college athletics. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying they're not doing that at the University of North Carolina. Again, I'm not in that building. I haven't talked to any of their players, so I don't know. But in Jim Collins, the old coach that's been around this business for a long time, I still think that's very, very important. I've been a part of a lot of championships, Tim and Mike, but the things that make me feel good about where I have been and the things that I've been a part of accomplishing is when a former player comes to me and says, "Thank you, coach. I appreciate the way that you taught me how to be a man, how you taught me how to be successful in life." I have cold chills right now just talking about that to you guys, because that's what we're still doing. We're still growing and molding young people in college athletics.
So, Jim, Tim, you've both been coaches for a long time, over 4 decades each. Tim, you've been a head coach. Jim, you're a career assistant coach. But Tim, the majority of your career, you've been an assistant coach. In my perspective, from playing my brand of low-level college football, but being in the SEC, the ACC, the Big Ten as an administrator, Conference USA, the SoCon, CAA, you name it. Man, a lot of times the head coach wasn't that warm and fuzzy teddy bear. And I doubt too many people were going to, hug up Coach Saban when they had a problem with their girlfriend. They're talking to the Kirby Smarts. They're talking to the Kurt Signettis, the Lane Kiffins. They're talking to the assistant coaches. I named my son's middle name is the last name of my college position coach because of what he meant to me. I think it's an unrealistic expectation for anybody to sit there and expect Bill Belichick to all of a sudden become Paddington Bear. Okay, he's not going to be that. He's going to be that guy. Now, we've been at practice. Jim, maybe you and I will go over to practice one day if we can get a pass. I doubt we'll get one. But, hey, when he's in practice and they showing up in these videos, he's working with people. He's on the sidelines at good counsel. And whether he's doing this or that or the other, it seems like this is a knives out absolute hit piece that just doesn't really care about much other than clicks. And the evidence for that is not necessarily the sports reporter's report, but guys, I literally sat on YouTube the other day and watched for 8 minutes two news anchors who have no sports background at all. One's not even from this country. Not that that really makes a difference because they play 3-down football in Canada. But I'm listening to somebody talk about a Division I Power 4 football program like it's her daughter's soccer team and like they expect Bill Belichick to be out there cutting up orange slices. I mean, that is not it. And I will go now to the next phase of this report that gets me is that everybody, and this is nationally right now, brothers, firing a coach after 5 games, buying someone out for 20, now 49 million, Jimbo close to $70 million. Is that doing something to appease unhappy fans? To me, as a former AD, somebody that has hired coaches at the Power 5 level at the time, basketball and football coaches. I've hired coaches for 18 years. To me, that is a real sign of weak leadership, weak ADs, and weak institutional control. Because this goes at North Carolina. If we really wanted to get into the clickbait game, we could talk about some of the off the field things that are going on at the university, not the athletics department, not the football, the university system level. Things that are going on at that level that would blow away anything that you've heard over the tenure of Bill Belichick about what's going on in his personal life. Okay, we're not going to go into that because we have a little bit of class right here. We try to have a modicum of control. But guys, Coach Brew, you've been in NFL and college locker rooms. When a new system comes in and you have inherited a roster that at North Carolina last year went 6-7, lost 70-50 to James Madison, has massively underachieved with both Drake May and Sam Howell not getting to that promised land because it was too early when Howell was there. There weren't enough horses around Drake May at Carolina. What are the biggest friction points that you have when you're trying to make that shift from a losing culture? And at North Carolina, since you and Mac were there, Tim, in 1997, it's not been real. And that's 28 years. 28 years that Carolina's not had, consistent success. What are the biggest friction points that these guys are going through right now internally? I'm not talking about externally. We all know the noise. But what are they having to deal with internally that's a real challenge to get this roster up to speed?
Your system is your system, okay? Coach Belichick's system is a very, very complex defensive system. Offensively, they're running a pro-style attack. Do they have all the pieces to fit the system? You say, well, you never want to fit the system. You want the system to fit the player. And I think that's what really good coaches do. And again, like Jim said a number of times, we're not in the meeting rooms over there. We're not in the locker room over there and knowing exactly what's being said. But I know this. My first year as a head coach at the University of Minnesota was an extremely challenging year. I won one game. We won one game my first year as a head football coach. My second year, okay, we had the biggest turnaround in college football. We went from 1 win to 7 wins, okay, in my second year at the University of Minnesota. And so, again, it's all about the process and nobody anymore, Mike, and you're hitting on it. You're an administrator. You're an athletic administrator. Nobody has patience. Nobody has. There's way too much money being spent with the NIL world that we're living in right now. Nobody has any patience. It's absolutely mind-blowing to me that you could consider firing a coach after 1 year. After 1 year. It's being done, guys. It's being done. Regularly now, guys are getting fired in their second year. And so what you have is you've got a group, you've got athletic directors that aren't making decisions, Mike. They're not in a decision-making situation. The alums, the boosters, the donors, the big money people, they're making the decisions. And I'm just going to tell you, guys, if you don't get the thing turned, if you're not winning, it's not going to be satisfactory. It just isn't. And okay, so you think about this. Well, that's unfair. This is James Franklin's walking away with $49 million. Okay. If Kirby Smart got fired at the University of Georgia, he'd walk away with $105 million. And it's all part of the process. It's all part of the process.
One of the things as an administrator that I see coming down the tracks pretty strong right now is exactly what you talked about. Those buyouts and some of those big coaching contracts, I don't think you're going to see them anymore. I think they're going to reshift the money. It's a redistribution of wealth. It's going to go more towards the players and NIL budget to get that roster where it needs to be to win. And then it's going to be very incentive based on the coaching staffs. And I think this could be a real tectonic shift. I guess time will tell, but let's broaden that perspective out a little bit. And this is already a season, 2025, that is littered with coaching exits and endless rumors. Anybody that loses a game, they need to be fired. I mean, the amount of dum-dums that are making content is stunning to me. But there are a half dozen profile openings already. UNC, Virginia Tech, FSU, NC State, Oklahoma State, Colorado, perhaps, Wisconsin, Florida, all could be coming up down the line. I mean, these are the rumors out there. And Coach Brew, why are ADs so tripper? Why are Coach Brew, why are ADs so trigger happy these days? Are they chasing headlines, donors, the booster pressure that you mentioned, or is patience just a dying virtue in society overall?
There's extreme pressure on the athletic director, on his choice as head coaches. Are they choosing the head coach? Who is truly the decision maker? I think, Mike, that's what we really have to figure out, at these individual schools, like who's making these decisions. And is that person? A lot of times athletic directors, they use the term bean counter. These guys have never played the game. They don't know the game. They're businessmen, And so I think that that's truly unfortunate that there's not more men in the profession like you, who played the game, who understands the game, who understands the decision-making process, who has some patience about the process.
Mike, I'm gonna throw this out to you. You're the athletic director, and we all know that football is the cash cow. Football makes the money. Football brings in all the monies to basically, along with your boosters and all that, but football brings in the money to support all your other programs. And we got a lot of sports at these schools this day and time. So the pressure goes on to you as the athletic director that if we're not successful in football and we do not win, then the boosters out there, the alums out there, they're not going to continue to give enough money for us to be successful. So we need to make a change and get the right guy in here that can continue to bring in that kind of money, put us at the national level so we can continue to bring in big time TV monies and all the things to support all these other programs. So that athletic director, that whatever his background is, or whomever the decision maker is, in my opinion, has a lot of pressure on him this day and time that prevents them from being very patient as they move along, because we're profit sharing now with $20 million to all these sports out there. You've got and this is nothing against the golf team, whether it be men's or women's, but in the ACC, you're paying for your golf team to fly from North Carolina to go play a tournament in Stanford. How much money is your golf team making these days? Well, so many people out there don't realize, they think basketball makes money. Basketball doesn't make money. Football makes all the money. And if you're not filling the stadium and the parking lots, and they're not buying shirts and hats and all that stuff, then guess what? Your ass is in trouble. So you better find somebody that can fill that stadium. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there has to be patience. I'm a coach. I think you have to give a coach a chance to win. But in general, in our country right now, there is no patience. They want things that people today want things that have to grow. You don't go in and all of a sudden win 12 games and win the national championship. It takes time, man.
For our veterans, the end of their service is just the beginning. It may come with new careers and new chaos. There might be late nights, school drops, and even haircuts. That's where we come in, providing more than $1 million a year in career-building scholarship funds and discounts on every haircut for our veterans. Just trying to do our part to make their lives a little easier. Sport Clips Haircuts, supporting veterans everywhere.
Brew, you have a decade plus at North Carolina, both in the first and the second Mac Brown coaching stints. Jim, you were part of the second one. I think you guys have hit on exactly the challenge right now, whether it's Bill Belichick or whoever is the head coach at Carolina. Who is actually running UNC athletics? Bubba Cunningham, known him a long time. When I was at Akron as the number 2, he was the number 1 over at Ball State. Know him very well. Okay? He's a lame duck. Okay? He didn't hire either Mac Brown or Bill Belichick. His only hire was Larry Fedora, and he fired his coach. Okay? Bubba Cunningham is a former college golfer. He worked at Notre Dame. He is a brilliant administrator in the classic sense. But his days were numbered when the first couple of the University of North Carolina system, Pryor and Halsey, put out a hit on him. Go back and look at David Glenn's show on that from May of 2024, the Carolina Clown Show, because it's only gotten worse. Okay? Bubba had a mark on him from last spring. And then this year, in this spring, a year later, you saw awards being named after him. That's when you knew that his days were numbered. And now Steve Newmark, the former NASCAR executive at RFK Racing, who's a brilliant guy, University of Virginia guy, Chapel Hill native, he's in there. Who are you going to right now to make that decision? The guy who's out in June and hasn't been allowed to hire the last 2 coaches? Or is it going to be the new guy who's never worked a day in college athletics? Is it Chancellor Lee Roberts, Board of Trustees chair at present, Malcolm Turner, who is a UNC graduate, former head of the G League, works with FanDuel right now, and is also the former athletics director at Vanderbilt? Is it former Board of Trustees chair and chief instigator, pot stirrer from Greensboro, John Pryor, and Jen Halsey, who was also a UNC football parent of current tight end Court Evans from her first marriage? I mean, who is making the calls in this administrative clown show around UNC athletics? And what kind of impact does that have on the coaches? And I'm talking about all of the coaches being able to do their jobs, football, basketball, all the way down to field hockey and women's soccer. And what kind of an environment is that to work in? Jen, we'll start with you.
You wonder about what kind of security there is, and your budgets, and the situation that you're placed in. And I'm going to back up here for 1 second. I just made this note on a pad that I keep here, that and it ties into exactly what we're talking about here also. Coaching in college and being able to carry on in college. You know, I was with Mac Brown a short time. I thought Mac Brown had great strength in being able to cultivate and grow players. I mean, whether it be walking to practice with them, eating lunch with them, eating dinner with them, you know, Coach Brown had that ability to grow that and to go into homes and to grow that stuff. And whether Coach Belichick is that guy or not, I have no idea. But if he is not, then the rest of your staff better be. You better bring in guys that can do those things. But the insecurities that surround the decision makers at the University of North Carolina right now is one that makes for a very, very bumpy road, and a lot of doubt in your mind about what is the security of not only my program but my job.
So, as a university, when you have an opening, you want to be able to attract the highest quality coach that you can possibly acquire. Okay. And I'm just going to say this much right now. If there's any dysfunctional nature to your organization, to your university, to your process, Mike, if it's dysfunctional in any way, and that word gets out across, I mean, everybody knows the situation, okay? And you're not going to be able to attract the type of coach that you would really like to attract, because I'm just going to tell you right now. And I think that's a situation right now that North Carolina, okay, so great. Okay, you're going to let Bill Belichick go. Okay? If you whatever you okay, who's going to take his place? And who's going to be attracted to that situation in Chapel Hill, that they're going to leave because they're going to be at a really good place? Why are they going to leave a really good place and go to North Carolina, where there's all kinds of transition taking place? You got a new AD, you got all kinds of stuff, all types of rumors, all this and that and the other thing. I mean, and so I just think that right now there's some real, like I said, they just I think North Carolina's got to slow down and they gotta, they gotta worry about what they have right now. Let's not worry about what's next. Let's take care of what we got right here, right now.
You're going to think this is kind of funny coming from me, but here's the question. Should athletic directors and university presidents be held more accountable when they give these massive contracts and then the guys that they bring in fail? They authorize the deals, they approve the buyouts, and often protect their own jobs when coaches get fired. Should contracts or reputations be at stake? Please respond. Are ADs and presidents being held accountable at the same rate as these coaches are?
And the answer to that, in my opinion, is no. They just fired James Franklin the other day. The athletic director is going to be there. The president of the university is going to be there. I have not there. What are there? 6 openings now in college football in Division I or in Power Four, whatever. There's 6 openings, not counting UAB at this point in time, which is a non-Power Four. But we have not heard of a single athletic director that has lost his job. We have not heard of a single president that's lost his job. And the thing is, Mike, is I'm going to throw this out also. If I'm going to go hire a coach as an athletic director or a president, why are we going out and hiring search firms right now to help me make the decision? Am I not smart enough as an athletic director and it has athletics in front of it, does not? Can I not make up my own mind who fits my university, who fits the system, whom I want to work with, that we've got to go pay $100,000 to a friggin' search firm to tell me who my list is? Come on, man, give me a break. Make up your own mind. But bring somebody in that fits you, that fits your university. I don't see a general manager in the NFL or an owner in the NFL hiring friggin' search firms. They make up their own mind. And in the NFL, guess what? When the head coach gets fired, usually the general manager or the hierarchy of that staff, they end up being fired also. So in my opinion, yes, they should. The athletic director and the president of the university should be held accountable for everybody they hire, whether it's a history professor or the head football coach, the head basketball coach, whomever.
There's ADs hiring guys that don't know what they're doing. Bottom line, okay? That don't know what they're doing. There's ADs out there that have never put on a football uniform, that have never been part of a team process. And so I think that, and we've lost that because that's the way it always was, right, Mike? Hey, athletic directors were always, maybe ex-coaches, but they've been around the game. They've been part of the game. And now, you've got these guys that haven't really been around the game. They're leaning on search firms to help them make their decisions. Jim said it. Believe in yourself. Believe in what you're trying to do. This is your hire, okay? Go put your stamp on the hire. And if it doesn't work, then you're out the door too, okay? You're out the gate too, along with the coach. Simple as that.
The most embarrassing thing is out there is one search firm that is run by a pair of ADs who paid for that acquisition of the search firm with the buyouts that they got from the last 2 schools each that fired their ass. So, it's stunning to me. I've been around, I've worked with all the major search firms, both as an AD candidate and as the school that was hiring. I never hired a search firm. I used a search consultant one time just to help me through things, but they were not talking directly or negotiating directly with any coach. They were helping me refine my list, which I had already put together. But it's funny that the way ADs will work, they will hire a search firm and they will do it under the guise of, we need to keep this under the radar. And when you look at how a search firm works, they already have their little pre-designed group of people out there, and it just feels icky. It felt icky to me. There was one search firm that an AD I worked for was partial to, and he'd go out and buy this guy's books every year to give to the student athletes, so we'd go up higher on that guy's list and would position him for a better job from where we were at the time. Okay. There was another search firm that he later brought on at a school. Brew, you might remember this one, where he paid them a retainer of $175,000 a year, whether we had a search or not. And it was always trying to position himself to get a better job. I mean, the thing you need to be able to do is to be able to evaluate who is the best fit for your university. Okay, that's the number one thing. And then you need to talk to their agent. And it does their agent no good to go out there and blab about it, but we all know they're going to do it. And that's just part of the game. I mean, the last coach I worked with knew the entire season, our last season together, that he was on the hit list. And he knew that the school was talking to other people. So when we were talking as an administrator to him, it wasn't where I was the AD, but it was one of those things where we were a very symbiotic relationship and you had that relationship. Sometimes these ADs, they're massively out of touch. There was one AD I worked with that 2 times I had to talk him out of hiring a guy who was a repeated failure. And then we ended up going, and it wasn't just me who was saying this, there were a variety of us giving this counsel, but say, go with this guy because he's a winner. He's a fit for us geographically. He's a fit for us philosophically. And sometimes ADs, and I made mistakes too. I hired the worst women's basketball coach and the worst field hockey coach in the history of time. Why? Because I never played women's basketball. I didn't have anybody on my staff that had played women's basketball or field hockey. My football coaches, my basketball coaches were pretty good. And that's where you stick to what you know, and you bring a staff in there just like you guys would do if you're putting together a football staff. You're going to hire people that accentuate the areas where you fall short. And I just see so many of these ADs now, man, they are just ill-equipped. They are fundraisers first because that's what it takes to run these big engines. It takes money.
Need insurance? Go to a team that's got your back. The Lawson Insurance Group, run by the Lawson brothers, right here in Raleigh. They deliver real service, smart protection, and the kind of trust that's hard to find these days. Find them online by searching Lawson Insurance Group. That's LAWSON, Lawson Insurance Group, and tell them DG sent you.
Guys, before we wrap up, let's look ahead to the big weekend in ACC week number 8 games. And first, our tailgate and festival reminders. The Old North State tailgate will be on tour in Greenville for East Carolina Tulsa on Thursday night. Come on over to our place alongside Pirate Radio 92.7 FM and meet us, meet David Glenn, pick up some free koozies, might even have some NC by train coasters over there. It's going to be a great time. It always is when we head over to Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium. And then on Friday night, we'll get together in Wilmington and watch UNC and Cal. Keep an eye on how Belichick responds in hostile territory out in Berkeley. And then on Saturday, I am headed back to the best barbecue festival in North Carolina. It's called Smoke on the Water in Little Washington, featuring the Whole Hog Barbecue Series. It's the best barbecue, best live music, and the best tailgate vibes you're going to find anywhere in the Bold North State this weekend. If you see us, go ahead and come over, say hello, tag us on your social at hashtag Bold North State. Let's move ahead now and take a look at these week 8 games. On Friday night, a pair of ACC games. Louisville is in Fort Lauderdale against Miami. That's 7 o'clock on ESPN. And North Carolina at California, 10:30 p.m. from Berkeley on ESPN. A little ACC doubleheader, guys. What do you think? First up, Jimbo, let's go to you. Louisville and Miami. What do you see in this game between the Canes and the Cards?
Well, obviously, the people around the country believe the Canes are one of the top teams in the country, so it'll be a real challenge for Louisville. The game is at Miami. Is that correct?
Yes.
So obviously Louisville on the road. I don't think Miami at this point in time in the season has played a game outside of the state of Florida. Every game they've played has been in the state of Florida. So it'll be a challenge for Louisville to go in, and I would obviously favor at this point in time until somebody exposes Miami, and I don't know if they can. You got to believe that Miami's got to be the favorite there.
You know what? I think Mario Cristobal is doing an amazing job this year. I mean, I hate to say that they're back, But I tell you what, Miami's got a heck of a football club. I think they win at home over Louisville.
North Carolina at Cal. Bill Belichick, after two open dates out of the last 3 weeks, have the Tar Heels done what they need to do to overcome what Las Vegas is saying is an almost two-touchdown edge over the Tar Heels going in. Right now, Cal listed at a 13.5 point favorite over the Tar Heels on Friday night. Tim, what do you think?
I think it's an extremely challenging job for North Carolina to go across the country, three-hour time change, go out there and play a night game on Friday night. And so I think this is set up totally for a Cal victory.
I think it'll be a real challenge. I've had the opportunity to do that with a Duke team that went out and played a late night game at Stanford. Stanford was a pretty good team at that time. We weren't very good. So these are two teams with Cal and with North Carolina that both need a win very, very, very badly. So I'm gonna go with the Bears.
Georgia Tech and Duke open up in Durham at noon on ESPN on Saturday. UConn is at Boston College also at noon on the ACC network. Jim, let's go to you first. Duke at home against Georgia Tech. Man, this is a big opportunity for Manny and the Devils to get that first win of the year over Georgia Tech by any ACC team.
Well, I tell you, the Duke defense has played extremely well the entire season. They struggled a little bit against Illinois to stop them in the second half in that game. The critical thing for the Blue Devils will be, can they stop I almost said Notre Dame, excuse me, but can they stop the Georgia Tech run game with the quarterback Haynes King that does a great job? I think they have a great system at Georgia Tech to run the football. I'm going to go with the Blue Devils though, because I think the Blue Devils are very good on defense. And I think that the quarterback will make enough plays for them to win the game. So I'm picking the Blue Devils.
Michael, I think that this is the game of the weekend in the ACC. This is absolutely tremendous. Georgia Tech, Duke, the game of the weekend. I mean, at Duke, really excited about this game. I'm excited about what Manny's done at Duke. And like Jim just said, I mean, I'm going to tell you, Georgia Tech is an absolute handful with Haynes King and the things he can do with his legs, the things he can do throwing the ball. I'm going to tell you what, I'm calling for the Duke upset. Duke wins at home. I think it's going to be a heck of a day over there in Durham.
UConn is at Boston College. That's the other noon game. The other non-conference game, Washington State playing in Charlottesville. We won't spend a lot of time on those games, but SMU is in Death Valley against Clemson. That's the 3:30 game on the ACC network. That's a rematch of last year's ACC championship game in Charlotte, won by the Tigers in a late field goal, big time comeback. It just seems like it's setting up for a little revenge for Rhett Lashley. What do you think, Brew?
I just get a sense, okay, that Dabo's got his team back on track a little bit. It's in Death Valley. I just think I'm going to say the Clemson Tigers at home.
I think this is a huge game, Mike, and it's you're talking about two teams that started the season slow with early season losses. So if they're going to stay in the hunt for any postseason opportunities, it is a huge game for both. I think Dabo has the opportunity to defend his own turf by playing at home. So even though they've lost at home this year, but I still think Clemson is on the right road. So I'm going to pick the Tigers.
Pitt plays at Syracuse. This one is a 7:30 game on the ACC network. For Pitt, it's a big chance to stake claim to what does a road win in the Carrier Dome look like architecturally on defense. What is it, Jim? What does Pitt have to do to go into Syracuse and get the win against the team right now that Fran Brown's Orange is down a quarterback and they look to be reeling a little bit?
I think you have to give Pitt a lot of credit. They made the change at quarterback 2 games ago and has totally ignited their offense. So I think the opportunity for them to go in and score points against a Syracuse team that is another example of someone that started out strong early in the year, but they've hit some tough times as we've moved through the season. They need to rebound and move forward. So it's another critical game, and there are a lot of critical games in the ACC as we get to the halfway point and beyond in the ACC season. I think we've got a Pitt team that has momentum, so I'm going to pick the Panthers to go in and win against the Syracuse team that is in a real struggle at this point in time with a new quarterback also.
Michael, I tell you what, Pitt really impressed me going into Doak, okay? Going on the road, playing Florida State at home, responding, coming out with a victory. That was a big, they have to feel really good about themselves. I think Jim hit it on the head. Syracuse is reeling a little bit. I think Pitt goes into Syracuse, and I think they come out with another victory.
Final game of the weekend in the ACC. It's another big left coast late nighter. Florida State at Stanford, a cross-country test for Mike Norvell and the Florida State Seminoles that have gone over a year without an ACC win. Jim Collins, does Florida State break their streak, or does Stanford surprise everybody and truly put Mike Norvell into the incinerator?
Again, I'm repeating myself, Mike and Tim. It's another critical game as we move into that midpoint of the season and beyond. I made this statement in one of our earlier shows that what you do in late October and what you do in November is what people remember, and it gets you to that championship opportunity. So Florida State is in a well, I'm going to term it this way. They're in a must-win situation. Stanford is in that rebuild with Andrew Luck. You think Andrew Luck is the general manager there and running that program, but it's a must-win for Florida State, and I think the Seminoles will go in to Stanford and get the win.
I agree with you, Jim. I think that this is a must-win game for Mike at Florida State. This is just there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They have got to cross the country. They've got to go out there and find a way to get a victory. A loss would be absolutely devastating to the Seminoles. And so I think they'll respond, and I think that they're going to go across the country and get them a dub.
Great stuff today, guys. Thanks to Coach Tim Brewster and Coach Jim Collins for their time and insight. We've got a loaded weekend right here on the North Carolina Sports Network. The Old North State Tailgate, powered by NC Pork at East Carolina Tulsa on Thursday night. We've got Little Washington Whole Hog Barbecue Series action with Smoke on the Water coming up on Saturday, and you'll get all of the coverage right here on NCSN. Make sure you like us and follow us and subscribe on YouTube. We're almost to 43,000 subscribers right now. We also have Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, anything you have. We have it covered. Like, share, comment, let us know what you think. I'll see many of you this weekend out on the road in Greenville and Little Washington. Travel safe, eat well, cheer loud. I'm Mike Waddell, and we thank you for being right here with us on the North Carolina Sports Network for another edition of Bold North State Football Daily.
This has been Bold North State Football Daily, an exclusive presentation of the North Carolina Sports Network. Make sure you follow us on social media at the NC Sports Net, and check out our website that is wall-to-wall coverage of North Carolina sports at ncsportsnetwork.com. Our foundational partner is the North Carolina Pork Council, raising the bacon, raising the bar. Telling the stories of the bold North State, this is the North Carolina Sports Network.